Sin City, they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy, and God, I know I'm one. My mother was a tailor. She sold my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in Sin City. Thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk, and the only time he's satisfied is when he's on a drunk. I've got one foot on the platform, the others on the train. I'm going back to Sin City to wear that ball and chain. Sin City, they call the rising sun.
And good evening, you're listening to The Hardy Show on Sports Talk Speaker Radio, iHeartRadio.com, YouTube.com, and the Sports Talk Speaker app. Email for the show is hardy4824@gmail.com. Again, that email for the show is hardy4824@gmail.com. Twitter is @hardy7830. Again, that Twitter is @hardy7830 if you're listening live on the Sports Talk Speaker app or iHeartRadio.com or YouTube.com. You can get to the chat section of this episode through there. Ask us any question or make any comment that you want, and I'll get to as many of them on the air as I can. Obviously, I cannot get to all of them. But through the show, we'll go through a couple of them on the air. Got a couple different things to get to today. We're going to look at the lines for the games tonight. Not for tonight, for this weekend, for this Sunday. The AFC and NFC championship games. You got Cavs and Magic tonight. 76ers and Celtics tonight. Both on TNT. Kyrie Irving is not playing for the Celtics tonight due to his shoulder. Cavs are trying to bounce back from losing 3-4 in a row. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on in the show. I was watching PTI with Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser before, we were getting our show together and getting ready to go on the air. And they were talking about Manfred possibly incorporating a pitch clock for Major League Baseball pitchers. And is this a good idea? I think we all know that when you look at the major sports in the United States and you talk about popularity, obviously it's NFL and college football, and then it's the NBA, and then it's the NHL, and then it's baseball. And even though it's not there yet, you can start to make the argument that soccer is on the brink of being more appealing and interesting, especially to young fans, than baseball is. Baseball does not have a very wide youth following. And a lot of people look at baseball as one of those sports as, I can't sit there and watch it for 3-4 hours on TV. If I'm at the stadium, if I go to a game, then it's a different atmosphere. Then I can really sit there and enjoy it. And that's I'm 30 years old, and that's kind of how I am with baseball. Unless it's playoff baseball, or unless it's a really, dynamic game. I'm a Yankees fan. I watch a lot of Yankees games. But I'm really not enticed to tune into a Cardinals-Blue Jays game at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. I'm just not that enticed to do it. If it's Yankees and Orioles, or if it's Cardinals and Giants, then maybe. But I've always been where I enjoy it more when I actually go to a game. I have a hard time sitting there and watching a baseball game for 3 hours, usually 4 hours. I think they said last season the average baseball game was 4 hours. That's too long, man. And if you incorporate a pitch clock, yes, that's going to speed it up. But is it going to speed it up that much? And really what helped baseball last season was the incorporation of how many home runs were hit. It got people talking more about baseball during the regular season which is something that you just don't see a lot of. You really don't see baseball being looked at during the regular season the way that the NBA and the NFL is. Not even close. The NFL is relevant 24/7, 365. You've got the regular season, you've got the playoffs, and then you get into, they're already talking about the draft. Mel Kiper just released his first round mock draft 1.0, whatever it is. So you already got that being discussed. And then once the season's done, you get into the combine, you get into the incoming draftees. Then you get right into the draft, and then before you know it, you're talking about and looking at training camp and the start of the preseason. And the NFL's done a great job of that. They've done a great job of making sure that they're relevant and they're talked about all year long. And the NBA has somewhat gotten to that point. They're not as relevant when their season ends, but they still have, you got the lottery, you got the draft. But obviously it's not to the level that the NFL is. But they've, obviously they have tried, and they are continuing to try to get to that point. The NBA wants it to be where they are, and obviously it's an 82-game season. The playoffs is a long stretch. So, when you look at it, their season starts in October. It goes until like June. So that's a pretty lengthy time. So when you look at basketball, you really only have about 3 months of off time to fill. And with the draft and how they do the lottery and how they do their version of a combine, they've done a pretty good job of trying to make sure that they're relevant all year long. But the NFL has just mastered that. The NFL has mastered how they are relevant 24/7, 365. Baseball can't do that. They can't do that even if they tried. They have a hard enough time of making people want to talk and making them relevant during the regular season, and a lot of that is because of the length of their games. But obviously, you go back to last season with baseball, what was all the talk? It was Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and the amount of home runs that were being hit in Major League Baseball. That was the primary discussion for 100 and something games last season. And those are 2 ways that I think baseball could really help their sport. Shorten, you don't need 100 and something games. Shorten your season and try to find a way to speed up the games.